Now, propolis has been used as a medicine for thousands of years. So why a paper propolis medicine for our time today? Well, I think we have to go back to the beginning to sort of make a start at an understanding. So let's begin with, what is a medicine? Well, the founder of modern medicine, Hippocrates, he said the art of medicine consists of three elements: the disease, the patient, and the doctor. And even in the 12th century, medicine was seen as an element of spiritual remedies, or the medicinal art. Paracelsus, the great healer in the 16th century, said that medicine is not only a science, it's also an art. It doesn't consist of compounding pills and plasters. It deals with the very processes of life, which must be understood. So here we are, ready from the beginning. The art of medicine consists of three elements. The disease we could see as the physical, the patient we could see perhaps as the social, and the doctor as the cultural or the spiritual in this threefold equation. However, medicine today has come down to one dimension. Medicine today is about physical products. They're physical, they're scientific, they're single molecule, often active ingredients, synthetic, targeted and symptom related, risk benefit, clinically trialed, proven, and licensed. But there have been a lot of problems with this kind of medicine. Antibiotic resistance, of course, is a huge one. Side effects is another one. 100,000 people in the US die from prescription drug side effects every year. Iatrogenic disease, diseases caused by previous medical treatment. It leads to a lot of disease and a lot of deaths every year. Problem 4, a very general one, stated by the ex-vice president of GlaxoSmithKline some time back. He said the vast majority of drugs, more than 90%, only work in 30 to 50% of the people. So there's a problem there. They don't work as effectively as we imagine. Problem number 5 is the placebo. Researchers at Harvard discovered that the placebo was 50% as effective as the real drug. This is something staring us in the face that we have to recognize. And it is a limitation on our present model of medicine. Problem 6 is spontaneous healing. We've been aware that people's spontaneous healing from cancer for hundreds of years. And generally speaking, the reports demonstrate that regression is usually associated with acute infections, fever, and immunostimulation. I'm going to come back to this concept of immunostimulation again. In an extraordinary book, I think, by Kelly Turner, where she looked at 1,000 cases of radical remission from cancer. And she found there were 9 key elements. And when I put them into my threefold categories, they came into those 3 categories: physical, social, and spiritual. So there there were physical reasons why people would get better from cancer. These were things like radically changing your diet, using herbs and supplements, or taking control of your health. And also social reasons, like releasing suppressed emotions, increasing positive emotions, embracing social support. But there were also spiritual reasons. So following your intuition, deepening your spiritual connection, and having a strong reason for living. These were the 9 conditions that Kelly Turner found in 1,000 cases of radical remission from cancer. What kind of emerges from this for me is the importance of other factors other than the physical. When we have things like spontaneous remission, when we have spontaneous healing, all of them seem to point to the fact that something within us, and I think it's our immune system, is the key factor. And that key factor about our immune system is that it's not just a physical phenomenon, it's also a social phenomenon, and it's also a cultural and spiritual phenomenon. And we know that from research that our immune system dives in the event of traumatic events in our life, if a partner dies or a serious accident and so on. So it is maybe that one of the biggest problems with modern medicine is that, as the illustration shows, we may be sawing off the branch that we're sitting on. So where is medicine going? I think perhaps it's undergoing a real change at the moment. Many people are turning to alternatives. We found this as a result of COVID, and it seems that COVID is telling us something. And one researcher, Robert Verkerk, from the Natural Health Alliance, he's saying that the elephant in the room, the elephant in the COVID infected room, is immune enhancement. That the real weakness in our health systems is our immune system, and the real strength that we can bring to our innate ability to deal with disease is by supporting our immune system. So how do we enhance our immune system? Well, what is our immune system? I'm going to come back again to this, that three-dimensional process that we've described in Kelly Turner's radical remission. It looks to me like our immune system actually is composed of 3 elements, of the physical, of course, which we know quite a lot about, of the social, and of the cultural or spiritual. And as medicine changes, so we're beginning to see different kinds of medicines which exist on a continuum between the way we see human beings. So at one end of the continuum, we see man as a machine, which has been the modern way. At the other end of the continuum, we see man as a unique I. And within this continuum, I think we can see that medicine falls into these three dimensions, into these 3 categories, each of which may well be appropriate for specific, unique individuals. It may be, for instance, that your physical system is low. Of course, we're very familiar with that one, but it may also be that socially you are not up to par, and similarly spiritual. You don't feel able to do those things. You don't feel able to be the person that you would like to be. So this brings us back to this, and I'll be returning to it in other dimensions. It brings us back to the sense of medicine as a 3-dimensional. We've come to see it as mind, body, and spirit. So what's the role of propolis? Well, the clue's in the title, so to speak, isn't it? Aristotle coined the word pro, polis, before the city. It is the defender of the city. For the honeybee, propolis is used in many different ways, in threefold ways, in fact. It's used as a building material. It's used to cap and sterilize the cells. It's used to mummify the invaders, like mice. So it keeps the hive free from infection by sealing up the disease condition. I think this is a sort of key image for the way in which propolis works. And for human beings, well, what's it doing? Well, we know it's stimulating the immune system. Just as it acts as the honeybee's immune system, so it stimulates our immune system. It also blocks the enzymes responsible for inflammation. It seals up the virus. Now I'm using some information, some research that's been a long time ago. I'll come back to more recent research, but Bent Hafstein back in the 60s was saying that the protein coating around the virus is maintained by the bioflavonoids in propolis. It's the same as being immune to the virus, but only with the presence of bioflavonoids in propolis. Some research that we did in my company back in the 90s showed that effectively, as an antimicrobial, propolis wasn't essentially destroying the bacteria. It was simply uncoupling them and stopping them from developing to more dangerous forms. And the work that's been done on quorum sensors over the years has shown that propolis is an effective inhibitor of quorum sensors. Quorum sensors being those elements which trigger the formation of far more dangerous plaque or biofilm, which is present in MRSA and other forms like that. I think this is probably one of the most exciting bits of research that I ever came across, and it's stimulated ideas in my own imagination ever since I came across it. In 1975, at the Kazan Veterinary Institute in Russia, they found that if they combined propolis with antibiotics, it increased the effectiveness of the antibiotics by between 10 and 100 times. In a way, this began our journey, my research journey into propolis 30 years ago, and it's led to a number of discoveries, many of which are kind of pointing all in the same direction. So we found that propolis is more antibiotic in hot and wet climates. We find that propolis was effective against MRSA. That goes back to our biofilm. And that propolis we found in an area where there was sleeping sickness in the population in Cameroon contained an antitrypanosome chemical. This more than anything has sort of stimulated the idea of propolis as a unique geographic medicine. And I think we can best explain this by a reference to a plant which is found in Brazil called Baccharis dracuna culifolia. This plant, a form of rosemary, grows in the areas which have been polluted by mining in northern Brazil. The bees, so the plants themselves have adapted to the cancerous environment, and they produce these very big resin buds, and the bees love them. The bees collect that resin, and researchers have found that the propolis taken from that, the propolis from that source is highly cytotoxic, and has been used as a support for cancer patients. So in a sense, the story is that the plant's response to its environment is being picked up by the bee and converted into its response within the hive. And this unique relationship that exists between the beehive and the human being and our relations with it almost certainly implies the fact that the bee is able to pass on to us the benefits of its local response to disease conditions. So it was 10 or 12 years ago that we started the Epiceutical Research Center to look at the medicinal properties of all bee products, but also to explore the way in which we can develop beekeeping in a sustainable way. There's no point in having these medicines if they turn out to be what I believe they can be, if we end up killing the honeybee. And we've developed this. We've been developing these ideas through a number of projects. One is Bee Pharma Africa, where we've looked at protozoal vectored diseases in Africa, and we have and we're working. This is a work in progress, but we're working on to develop an understanding of the relationship between the chemistry of propolis and its biological activity. I mean, obviously, this is one of the things which makes standardizing propolis such a difficult equation. But largely speaking, we found that in the temperate zone propolis, the propolis is dominated by flavonoids and has a stronger antioxidant activity, whereas in subtropical zones, it's dominated by the phenolics and has a stronger antimicrobial activity. Of course, there may be all sorts of ranges within that, within this, and I think this is a major area of research activity for us to try and pin down that relationship between chemistry and biology. But one of the most important things which the Epiceutical Research Center did was to basically bring researchers together. And our first international conference, organized at the University of Strathclyde, was in 2016, and then courtesy of Professor Bankova, we had a wonderful conference in Sofia in Bulgaria in 2018, and we were due to have our third physical conference in Istanbul in 2020, which got postponed for all the reasons that you'll be aware of. But out of the first conference came the International Propolis Research Group, and here we are today having our first online conference. But we're having it online in the context of the COVID pandemic, and you're going to be hearing at this conference about some research and some papers that you'll find resonate with some of those very early research findings that I spoke of earlier. So you'll be hearing from Brazilian researchers who used propolis to treat COVID. You'll be hearing about the virucidal activity against COVID-19. Do you remember Bent Hafstein's work I referred to? You'll be hearing about upper respiratory tract infection, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, antiviral activity, and synergy with antibiotics. These are all things which have been researched and to a certain extent known about for many years. but suddenly they are appearing, and in a sense, they speak to my presentation title of Propolis, a medicine for our time. If it is to be a medicine for our time, though, is it a sustainable medicine? The honeybee has been treated pretty badly over the last century. Indeed, since we began the serious commercialization of honey production, and in many ways, the honeybee has been relegated to the role of commodity, as simply a producer of products. But the honeybee has never actually existed within that realm in the lives of human beings. It's had a far more exalted position. So in India, for example, and we heard this the other day at the IFA conference, in India, the Hindu gods were associated with bees. In Egypt, the gods were related to bees, and the temple became the house of the bee. At the great temple of Ephesus, the priestesses were called Melissa, or bees, as a symbol of higher knowledge, and the priests were called Essene, or king bees. You'll all be aware of the reference in the Quran to the if you like, the spiritual nature of the honeybee. In that verse, it says, "There comes forth from their bellies a liquid of many hues, in which there is a healing for men. Therein is surely a sign for men who reflect." But the honeybee has fallen from its status with the gods and has very much become a commodity, and has suffered as a result. But I think we may be looking to the future to see the honeybee rise again as a companion rather than as a commodity. And I just want to quote here from Rudolf Steiner's 9 lectures on bees, when he says, "Whoever looks at a beehive should actually say with an exalted mind, making this detour by way of the beehive, the entire cosmos can find its way into human beings and help to make them sound in mind and body." Steiner is referring to the honeybee as a highly complex organism that can support human beings on a number of different levels, I would say in 3 dimensions rather than 1. Horst Kornberger has referred to our treatment of bees, I think, in an instructive way, because he's saying the difference between thoughts and feelings is that our thoughts keep us detached, while our feelings make us related. And here's the point: the bee crisis shows how detachment can become destructive, and that a new approach is needed, one that is related as well as objective. He has more to say. He says it's hard to have an emotional relationship with the chemical formula, and there's nothing more sacred about a genome. When all regard is lost, nature becomes a commodity. The beehive becomes a factory, and the queen a genetic machine. And I think this is the point, because when we look at the potential of propolis and of the products of the beehive as medicines for the future, I think we must bear this in mind. And Horst Kornberger was saying that when we look at the problems that have been caused in relation to the honeybee, they should be addressed not just in a scientific manner, but also acknowledge the way we perceive, feel, and act in response to these issues. This is a problem then. This is a problem. The way we use these medicines is a problem, not just for the honeybee and how we solve it, but for human beings. Because health for the human beings, I think, if you remember back to what I said earlier, involves a balance between their social and community life, our economic and our environmental life, our physical life, and our cultural and spiritual life. And yet, you know, our societies are unhealthy in all three realms. Some would say that we've got community collapse disorder, as well as colony collapse disorder. This brings me to the project which fills most of my time these days, and that is the development of the BARC Center. And the BARC Center, as you can see, its strapline is the nature of the future. It's asking a question, and it's suggesting that through the beehive, human beings can find social, economic, and cultural inspiration. There are three dimensions to the BARC. It will be an international discovery center, exploring the social and the economic and the cultural meaning of the honeybee. It'll be an international research center, which will explore the social, cultural, and economic inspiration that the honeybee may well be able to give human beings. And also, thirdly, it'll be a model of a small-scale sustainable community. Because I believe that the learning from the honeybee can help us to live in a more effective and a more human way together. So here's a model of the exhibition center. We'll take the visitor on a journey through the cultural, then the social, and then the economic and environmental meaning of the honeybee. And the research center, which will contain a 100-seat theater, will have those same three elements. And there'll be workshops, classrooms, laboratories in the social and economic realms of the BARC Center. And this image illustrates the workshops and the dwellings which will form part of the a sustainable community. You can see the image that dominates the artist's impression of the center. It's the mysterious hexagon shape, the shape of a silica, the prime element in the universe. The center will be imitating the beehive in many different ways, not least in the way it's built, and we'll be looking for a zero carbon footprint for the BARC, and demonstrating ways in which we can live more sustainably on the planet. But we also hope that the BARC can be a model where we can explore together more effective ways of dealing with what for many looks like a difficult and uncertain future. I want to finish with that quote from Rudolf Steiner. Whoever looks at a beehive should actually say, with an exalted mind, making this detour by way of the beehive, the entire cosmos can find its way into human beings and help to make them sound in mind and body. We have to expand our view of what the honeybee is and what it brings us. I think of all the products of the beehive in terms of the potential for medicines. Propolis is the greatest example, but it's a medicine that it's a complex medicine. It's a three-dimensional medicine. It's a medicine which is related to human beings within the context in which they live. And basically this is why I believe that propolis is a medicine for our time. So thank you very much for listening.